With an architectural background and a decade of small business experience, design guru and entrepreneur Alan Warford resides in Lexington, Kentucky. You'll find that community and value are both driving factors in his entrepreneurial and creative pursuits. Awesome Inc. presents the Kentucky Entrepreneur Hall of Fame, a show that highlights how people throughout the Commonwealth of Kentucky pursue their definition of awesome through entrepreneurship, technology, and innovation. Mr. Alan Warford, it is a pleasure having you in our space at Awesome Inc. today and catching up because you've been someone who's been a constant friend of my life, but also it's been cool to see you branch out and do a ton of stuff. And that is one thing entrepreneurs do very well. They have their hands in many pots. So Alan, I would love for the people who don't know you to get a quick background on what you do, how you ended up in Lexington, and how have you become a member in Lexington's entrepreneurial community?
Absolutely, yeah. So a little bit of what I do right now, I actually work over at a squad of coffee shops. It's called A Cup of Commonwealth, and we also have a sister store called Chocolate Holler. So do a lot of like branding stuff over there, marketing stuff over there, and I'm also in executive management. A little bit about my background, I actually grew up in good old Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, so the home of a lot of bourbon distilleries and a couple McDonald's. But yeah, I actually grew up on a farm there, raising tobacco, and then actually ended up coming to Lexington because I got accepted into the College of Design in the architecture program. So I ended up making the move up here. I've been here for almost 10 years now. And then when I was in college and even a little bit removed afterwards, I just like always had some type of small business running. That's kind of something that I was used to back in Lawrenceburg with being a farmer. And then whenever I got to college, I started DJing. I've kind of almost always had something little going, and then that just easily applied to after I graduated into being into the small business world. So
that is awesome to hear, and it's been cool being your friend for, I guess, the last 5 years, and just seeing how you've always been apt to doing literally anything. So that's super encouraging.
I remember you when you were a little freshy.
Yeah, I know, when I was 18.
Man, it's crazy.
Time flies. So what would you say was the defining moment that really started your career with getting into the coffee shop business and specifically working and pouring into A Cup of Commonwealth?
Yeah. So it's actually a little bit funny because I actually started doing stuff. I was actually like a freelance designer for A Cup of Commonwealth. So I did all their like anniversary posters and then some like t-shirts and other like apparel and things like that. And I was actually doing it. We were trading for coffee. So I literally would do the work in exchange for coffee while I was doing freelance stuff for other people. And in the midst of just getting to know them really well and doing work for them, I became pretty good friends with Sal. And Sal's actually the founder of A Cup of Commonwealth. And then right before Chocolate Holler opened, which is a sister store, it kind of made sense to kind of come on board. And so I came on board as the marketing director, so to build the marketing department, because there wasn't a marketing department at the time.
Okay.
But also to kind of help open up Chocolate Holler and start like building that as well. So that's kind of how I entered the scene, first kind of bartering for coffee, and then into management ultimately.
That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, I've known you, and that's kind of cool to hear that your journey went from freelancing to making a friend to, hey, I'm going to totally just create a solution to a problem that I see that you don't recognize. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, fun question. What is the most impressive drink you can create?
Ooh. I make a pretty mean cup of water. So artisanal, handcrafted water. It's my specialty. That was a joke for everyone else. No, I would say we'll say a cappuccino. So something simple, 2 shots of Spro, some steamed milk. So that we'll say that's impressive.
I like that. Okay, cool beans.
Go beans. No pun intended.
Speaking of beans. Yeah.
Speaking of beans.
Magic beans. Alan, there is no question about how impactful your team has been within our community, both just welcoming people in. If they're passing you on the street or on the road, they'll yell at you and give you some love.
Yeah.
People know you guys for great coffee, an accepting environment, and just being a place to gather with friends. So can you speak into what A Cup of Commonwealths and the sister company, Chocolate Holler's core values are, and how they continue to shape your business?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a very good question. We're actually a mission-based company, so and we operate off of a mission statement. So our mission statement is embrace community, serve others, and create culture. And if you walk in either of the shops, you'll notice that that's one of the first things you see painted on the wall at A Cup of Commonwealth or at Chocolate Holler. Is that mission statement. So, and that mission statement is not just something that's like a marketing tactic. It's not just something that sounds good. It is actually a statement of who we are and what we actually believe in. So those values don't just exist because it's a business and it's, a good tactic or a good, feel good thing. It's actually, those are values we believe in. So embracing community is just embracing the community that's around you. So whether it is, someone who, a businessman coming downtown or a mom walking her kids or some kids from the neighborhood over at East End or a college student studying or a homeless person coming by, whoever it is, we want to embrace them. We want to serve others. So that's just something that we want to put others before ourselves. And then in hopes of doing those things, we actually are creating a culture of inclusion, a culture of love. And so that's kind of how we see things on our end. It's more than just words. It's actually who we are and what we believe.
That is powerful. Yeah. And again, I think one of the coolest ways you guys show that is in both stores on the walls in big bold letters. Yeah. It says embrace community, serve others, and create culture.
Absolutely.
One thing that I think has been just very inspiring, just knowing you guys and being in your spaces, is you do a huge job and focus a lot of energy on creating community. And I would love for you to talk into that because a lot of companies lack that. They lack the personal relationships of, hey, we're known for this. We want to be known as a place, that we're welcoming or, fill in the blank. So can you talk about maybe how you've grown in trying to help establish the community or how you've, just how you've grown in the sense that we want people to know they are welcome here without anything that they need from us or just without any means.
Yeah, for sure. No, I would say that the community portion of things it's super important. It's vital. It's like the hinge pin. I would say one of the things that we try to do at the shops is, or even when we're describing A Cup of Commonwealth or Chocolate Holler, we like to describe them as a living room. It's almost like you're walking into a living room. And so, and if you know that feeling when you're walking into your living room at your parents' house or your grandparents' house or whatever, it's that welcoming feeling of oh, I'm home. And so I think the thoughts for the shop is that we want to create an atmosphere for people to feel home away from home. And some people have that elsewhere. They might have that on campus somewhere. They might have good friends that they have, houses they can go to, and some people might not. And so we hope that we can create the shops as a place for people to feel at home. And I would say that from the community aspect, for me personally, kind of how I've grown in that or what I've learned, if you ask almost any of the baristas, what their favorite part, why do you like working at Cup? A lot of the times it's, I love the people that I work with and I love the customers, getting to know them on a personal basis. And it really is all about the community aspect of things. So the people component of any business should be, the most important part because we're all people and we all connect. And, every business can have good coffee. Every business can have good enter XYZ, whatever. But the people component is, I think, truly the most important part of that. So, so I've grown a ton in that. The shop has taught me a whole lot. The people, the customers have taught me so much. There's a group of guys who comes in the morning. There's 6 guys from anywhere from mid 50s to 85. And they all met actually in the shop and became best friends because they came in. Just one after the next, and then they sat at the same table and just started talking. And then now, remove 5.5 years, they're all really good friends. And the stories you hear from people like that, they grow you too. So, so it's more than what we're doing; it's also what the community is giving back to us. So, so I've grown a ton in that.
I have no comment. Yeah, that was
all the feels.
That's sweet. Yeah, that's just cool to see. Is that Mike Sullivan and all those guys?
Yeah, the whole squad. So good old Mike, Don, Dan, Cappuccino Dan. So there's a lot of people coming.
Alan, before we head over and start talking about Chocolate Holler and future opportunities, I would love to know what is one of the most fruitful experiences that you've gained from working with some of the people who've been around there for years, and then what are maybe some of the most challenging experiences that really opened your eyes into the business.
So fruitful and challenging.
Fruitful and challenging.
Man, as I stroke my beard. You can't capture that on a podcast. Yeah. So I would say fruitful. It will touch a little bit down on what I just had talked about, but the people. I think that for me, business, I've never really been in a business or started a business or been a part of ownership of business in the service industry specifically, where you're encountering people every day, like, 200 to 300 people. And so to me, like the people portion has been the most powerful. It's been the thing that like has changed me the most, that I've loved the most, that I've been, that I just have been like embraced into a community that was already established, got to have been a part of that community as a customer before, and then ultimately get to see people, 200 to 300 people a day as you're interacting with them. So I'd say the people portion has been the most powerful. In terms of the most difficult, it's crazy because the service industry is just, it's a crazy place. So it's a lot. I think a lot of the things that I had been used to had been kind of like solo or duo operations that were a lot smaller. So in terms of this family of businesses, we have 2 coffee shops and then we have a coffee roaster. There's just a ton of different people who are coming in every day, which is a lot more to manage. There are a lot more employees, so there's about 30 something of us. So that's a lot more to manage on the management side of things. And I think that they're just a lot bigger operations. So it has been like challenging, but in an awesome way. That process of like growing. So like coming from one shop with 4 walls to 2 shops to a roaster to potentially more. That process of growth has been very, very challenging.
I think one word that sums up what you just said very well is delegation.
Mm-hmm.
So how is, again, coming from someone who's been a freelance designer, you are a one-man power team, and I can say that because I know you very well. How has delegation helped you grow as an entrepreneur, as a way that you work with people? Like what's been the most beneficial aspect of being okay with delegation?
Yeah, for sure. No, I'd say that that's like a huge thing that we've all had to realize and grow in over the span of multiple years is doing the things that we are best delegated to do. So for people who, who are in exec level, doing what you need to do. For people who are in management level, doing what you need to do in operations and marketing and HR and finance and all the different departments that we've built up those departments so that those departments can specialize in what they're doing. And for me, being someone who wants to being a part of small operations and touch a little bit of everything, I think it's fine to know a little bit of everything, but you really do have to get to a spot where you're okay with people failing in their respective departments so that they can learn and grow. And that's something that even as I stepped on, I was delegated stuff that I got to fail in and grow in. And so for me, being a part of a bigger operation, it definitely was something that I had to fail a ton in, but I learned because of that over the span of a few years. And so it's been a process, but definitely a good thing to also learn that on the management end of things, of you have to relinquish control for something to truly grow. So if you want growth in your company, you have to learn that relinquishing control and letting people fail, Sal always says fail fast and fail often, and that comes from someone else down the line who said it, but you have to let other people fail, or at least give them the chance to succeed. And if that happens, then they'll grow from that. So something that I am still learning,
As we all are.
every single day.
Yeah.
So not saying that I'm a professional at that, but definitely something I've learned.
That's very encouraging. And I know one thing that's cool in our respective worlds is we are encouraged to fail, and most areas of life and in business, that isn't the case. So that's really cool that you're talking about learning how to fail, just because that's an important way to grow.
Yeah, absolutely.
So going from talking about failures, what is easily, other than people, because we know you love people and they're so important, what is the best part of your job and what is the most difficult on a regular basis?
So I mentioned a little bit about the people component, but other than that, I would say practically from a job realm, it's cool for me so I got a degree in architecture, and a ton of what I do, at least right now, is more on the branding side. So if we were a C-suite, I'd be more like the chief branding officer.
Okay.
So getting to capture basically being the brand, being in charge of that, and being able to speak to people what each individual company stands for and what their brand looks like and what the voice and the vision of who they are is. I think that it's been cool for me to practically plug my experience in design to a company. So it's given me like a practicality that maybe I haven't had in other companies that I've been a part of, or in other freelance stuff where I'm just kind of like branding something and creating it for them with their vision and then passing it on. In this, I'm actually a part of it. So that's been a really, really cool thing to be a part of the companies from a customer point of view, come in as the marketing director and essentially get to like brand different things. Like Holler got to do all the branding and interiors for that. And then ultimately like push it toward the future and saying, here's what our voice is. So it's been really cool to be a part of that process. And then I think from the lens of like, what's the hardest part, not from a people point of view, it's just like, I think it's simply just growing, like knowing that I don't know everything and being someone who is a grab everything and do it yourself person. I realize that there is a long process of growth in that. So I think it has been a little bit difficult, but also really cool to just fail myself and to learn that there's a process of getting there, that I'm not going to achieve everything that I'm going to quote unquote achieve immediately. Like there's a process of growth getting there.
I love that the most difficult thing for you is actually one of the best parts of what you get to do. And it's just grow. I mean, it is frustrating in the long run, but it's also, it is frustrating in the moment, but it's so fruitful and helpful in the long run.
Yeah.
So what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like a lot of the answers are like, this is my favorite thing, but this is also the thing that's most difficult. So they kind of line up.
Yeah, they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Holler briefly. You talked about doing the interior design, the branding. I would love to revisit that. And feel free to mention your other company, because that wasn't technically in here, but I think that would be cool for you to share about that as well.
Yeah.
So when and how did Holler just come into the mix? What was the need for you guys to say, hey, I think we need a second store? Fill in the blank. I don't know actually a lot of that story.
For sure. So this Cup was thinking about expanding and growing. The thought was, what way can we grow in a way that's not cookie cutter and that's not the same as a lot of shops might grow? So for us, we looked at the coffee industry and then also looked at a neighboring industry in the chocolate world, and realized that like chocolate right now is about 10 years behind where the specialty coffee industry is. So specialty chocolate is still on the up and up. So I think we realized the similarities in those industries, but also realized that it's a little bit different. So we could open up the coffee component, but have a focus on chocolate, and that would provide something different for Lexington. So that was kind of like conversations that were happening on the company side of things. And then for me specifically, I had been talking with Sal right in the midst of those conversations and in the midst of growth, and as we were planning and scheming for the future, that was right along the time that Holler was getting ready to like find a location to open. So I actually came on board right before then to kind of help get the shop opened up, and then plug other side company. I was doing woodworking and still am doing woodworking through my other company, KRFT Goods, and that's kind of like where the practical, building the tables, getting everything on the interiors portion. It was almost like a merger of new position at A Cup of Commonwealth and also this business that me and my friend had started doing woodworking stuff. So there has been a marriage over that over the last couple of years, but still excited to see what the future has in store with everything.
Yeah, that's cool. It's cool to see and hear from your perspective just how that formed, because as from the outside, you're like, oh, that's so cool. Of course they're doing all this stuff together. But yeah, that's cool because your experience through your eyes is going to be different than people who are just who are watching from the outside.
Yeah.
So you mentioned location.
Yes.
For those of you guys that don't know, Holler is literally a block away from the Cup of Commonwealth.
It's like 150 yards probably, something like that.
So what was the reasoning for choosing that location?
Yeah, so we actually joke sometimes that we opened up our own competition right across the street, because we kind of did. But I think we had looked at quite a few different spots and hadn't really found any that fit well, in terms of like either like, I don't know, we're not sold that something has to be on an amazing busy thoroughfare to be successful. Like I think that if you create a contagious business culture, that people will come see you. Or we don't believe you have to have parking. We don't have a parking lot for really Cup at all. It's just street parking. And for Holler, we have 4 spots. So we really do believe that people will come if you build a really cool culture. But I think for that spot, it was honestly just super simple. Like we had looked at a bunch of places. It didn't make sense. I had hopped on board, and then an opportunity came up, and it was same landlord as we had. It was going to be a pretty quick turnaround. And I think that was really not something that we necessarily had planned for, but something that made sense at the time. So we just made kind of like a split-second decision to execute quickly. And for people who don't know, we actually had a meeting the day after Christmas on the 26th of December that said, hey, let's start doing this. And we actually opened January 25th. So we opened up and did all the work for Holler within 30 days.
That is a quick turnaround.
It is a quick turnaround.
Wow.
So it's kind of nuts and I don't think a lot of people knew that. I think it was almost like a fluke when around like New Year's, we were like, hey, we have a chocolate shop on the way. And then it actually opened up on the 25th. We had a lot of people say we didn't believe you guys, or like that was possible. So I think a lot of the location was the ease of being able to have 2 shops really close, so that if, to talk one another up and to kind of like benefit off of, the community we had at Cup, but also what we could build at Holler. The fact that they were different enough to exist on their own, but also a location thing and a time thing, with the fact that we can get this open quickly and we can kind of build from there. So, yeah, nuts.
Alan, that's cool. Yeah, I did not even know that was how Chocolate Holler came about. That's sweet.
Yeah.
So we've danced around this very much with talking about people and the community you guys have, but I want to revisit this and frame it in a different way. So what's the story? What's the why behind A Cup of Commonwealth, and what have you guys been telling and living out to the community for the last 10 years, 5 years?
It's been
5 years.
It's been like, it'll be almost 6 in July.
Almost 6. Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what's been the story behind that?
Yeah, for sure. I would say that it's going to sound like a broken record. And I think that this is funny. Like anytime we talk to people, it really is like, we say the same things, and not because it's like easy, but simply that's just because who we are. So I think the story that Cup is trying to tell is our mission statement. It is to embrace the community around you, to serve others, and to create a culture of service and of love. And so I really do think that the heartbeat of A Cup of Commonwealth and of our family of businesses is to like love and to serve and to embrace and to really value the community that you're in. So there's some powerful stories that get told a lot on like Sal's end of when Cup was founded, but a lot of what happened to A Cup of Commonwealth within the first 6 months even, and how the community ended up teaching us about what we believe more than what I think we knew. So Cup actually, a time for hopefully a little quick story.
Please lay it on us.
All right, lay it on us. All right. So there was actually a break-in in December after A Cup of Commonwealth had opened. So it opened in July of 13, and then a break-in happened in December where people broke in, stole the cash register, stole like the money in it, and everything. And so overnight, basically, Sal and all the baristas that were there had kind of like been there overnight. They boarded up the window, were just kind of hanging out, and then they had to leave. And the person who was working was basically like, "Hey, like, what do? We don't have any money." And they were just like, "Well, just give the drinks away," because we just told them we don't have any change. And so basically what happened, long story short, the first, second, and third customer, when they went to give them the drinks, they ended up giving them like $20 bills, $10 bills, and just telling them to keep it. And then like later on, someone brought like an envelope of cash. And then later on, a kid ran down from the neighborhood and said, "Hey, I don't have any money, but I've got a piggy bank. You guys can start keeping this in." And then so you just basically like what we saw with Cup was that we were a company that had not even been open for 6 months, but that the community in Lexington embraced us and served us and loved us without even knowing who we were. And so I think that kind of like breathed a little bit more solidity and life into what that mission statement was for us to do the same for other people. And so I just think that like the big portion of things, it is the mission statement: embrace community, serve others, create culture. That is the heartbeat of our shops. That's the why specific to that. And I think that means different things for each person. But we hope that like that can be an identifier for other people so that they figure out the specifics of their why as well.
That's so unfortunate that you guys got broken into, 6 months into starting. But what's cool is the tradition you keep alive every December. Would you mind sharing that real quickly?
Because the community was so amazing to us, every year when we come around to December, we actually give away free drinks on the day that we got broken into. So we call it Break-In Day. So, which is really funny, but we call it Break-In Day. And on Break-In Day, we give free drinks at A Cup of Commonwealth for anyone who comes in. And so that's kind of just like a little bit of a like thank you to the people who like embraced us and supported us when we got broken into, so that we can give like a little bit back to the community. And it's nothing to like toot our own horn. It's strictly because like we love people and love the people who embraced us when we were in a time of need. So we love doing like little things like that.
That's sweet. What do you guys do present day to honor that?
Okay. Yeah. So one of the things that we probably most practically have at the shops, which I think a lot of people know about, is our Pay It Forward board. So that's like something that happened on the foundation of the shop. And it came from an idea, I believe, a place in Texas, and it was a Buy Your Buddy a Beer program. And so we had like a little board whenever a cup first opened, and that board had, free drink for whatever. And those drinks all came from people who bought shirts. So they were like, hey, like when the shop first opened, it was like, hey, if you buy a shirt, we'll give you a free drink. But all the people who bought shirts lived in Michigan or in contacts from where like all the founders had contacts from. And so basically what turned to a board turned to big paper sleeves because people caught on and were just like, oh, this is a really cool idea. And so it turned into a big paper roll. A customer came in and said, hey, maybe you should write these free drinks on coffee sleeves and hang them on the wall. And they were like, that's a great idea, better than what we had thought. Another way the community just did something better than what we had intended. So, and then if you look now, we have, 3 walls full of probably 1,000+ drinks that other customers have bought for other people. So it's less about what we're doing and more about what the community is doing for one another. So, and those drinks are basically, you can redeem a drink for, someone wearing a purple shirt, or for someone who will high five everyone in the shop, or we had a grown man act like a chicken for 10 minutes to redeem a free drink, and we had someone jump in the fountain outside. Or there's simple ones like, hey, happy birthday from your friend. So it's just been really cool to see the way that the community has poured out on other people of the community. And I'd say it's less about what we're doing, but a cool thing to be like the host spot for that. So after
hearing stuff like that, I just don't know how to respond. Just because it's internally, it makes me just smile. And it's like, man, people rock.
Yeah, they do. So they're awesome.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. Oh, exactly. They're awesome ink.
They're awesome ink. Alan, you have a very diverse skill set, and it's evident between starting your own woodworking company and how you have even incorporated that into helping, start Chocolate Holler and trick that place out because it's beautiful. But what, from like the entrepreneurial perspective, just again, you like to be involved with a lot. You like to have your hands in a lot of pots. Mm-hmm. What has been most helpful about knowing your story? Because knowing your story, helps you sell. It helps you buy into whatever you're doing. Mm-hmm. Personally, for you, what has been most helpful in knowing your story, whether it is with business or personally?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you definitely have to know who you are before you know where you're going. And in the same way that people say, you have to have a goal for you to be able to know what goal you're going to achieve. I really do think that you have to know who you are. And I think that a lot of times, I think me previously, I didn't know who I was, and I was chasing after, things. And I think that business is exciting. And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs will be chasing fulfillment in what they do. And I think that is a recipe for disaster, personally. So for me, I had to know who I was and continue to dive into that before I actually felt success in what I was doing. So on a personal note, not on a Cup of Commonwealth note, not on a business note at all, I found a lot of the who portion of who I am in my faith. And so I actually had a big moment in college where I recognized that I was living very selfishly, and what I can basically just describe as an encounter with God changed my perspective. And so creating things from a business mentality, the way that I see God is the ultimate creator. And so out of that, I am made in his image to create. And so I think a lot of business, a lot of creativity, a lot of design, a lot of the things that I'm good at and that I love to do kind of changed whenever I got more serious about my faith, because I saw the creation portion of that almost come alive immediately. And so that's the simple version of that. I'm sure we could talk for a couple hours.
Talk a couple hours.
A couple hours about it. But on a legit note, that is the driving force behind what I do. And I feel like God loves me enough to give me these opportunities. And so that is my duty and honor, honestly, to get to love other people through the things that I'm doing.
Man, that's beautiful. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's very encouraging.
Absolutely.
So yeah, taking that again, like knowing your personal story definitely carries over into everything else you do. Mm-hmm. So how do you see yourself continuing to play a role within Lexington's entrepreneurial community?
Yeah, so I think that, so I kind of feel a call to the creative community in downtown Lexington specifically, and to the business world. And I don't think that it's really a specific call for a certain thing, but just more for this city. And I want to see this city grow and succeed, and I want to see businesses thrive. And I think that I want to see, I think a lot of cool ideas and a lot of change comes from creativity and people being creative with different ideas. So for me specifically, I mean, we talked a little bit, I'm a part of the coffee fam right now, and then I also have this side company called KRFT Goods, where we do a lot of woodworking and design and construction type things. And so hopefully for the future, and definitely for the future, it will be some combination of the two. We actually have some fun things planned for growth for A Cup of Commonwealth that also merge a little bit with what we're doing at KRFT Goods.
Okay, cool.
And so hopefully I get to continue to feed that creative portion a little bit more practically in the future. So I know that that's a little bit vague, but just know that there are some fun things to come in regards to that in the future, and I'm just kind of excited to see what that little merger will look like. When I say merger, I don't mean from a business lens, I mean from a personal lens.
Okay, cool beans.
Of something that's going to come in the future.
Well, hey, I'm excited for whenever this ambiguous opportunity presents itself. That's sweet.
Yeah, stay tuned. Maybe check back in about 6 months, and we'll talk again.
Sounds good. Alan, just to wrap things up, well, first of all, thank you so much. This has been a treat, and Absolutely, it's always good getting the inside scoop on what's going on. Last thing, again, we want to make sure that for anyone listening to this, that they're encouraged and they also know that whatever they want to do, they can do it. Mm-hmm. And, as people who are entrepreneurs, and we fully believe that by knowing people who you know can really make an impact. Mm-hmm. What is some advice that you have for anyone interested in creating a culture and pursuing what they think is awesome through entrepreneurship, or anything relevant to that area?
Yeah. So I think that a big portion of that, I'm a big believer in action. So I think that a ton of people and a ton of creative people and people who want to be entrepreneurs have really great ideas. But I think that my advice would be don't let your ideas just stay ideas. And so I think that a ton of people have great ideas but don't actually execute to make something happen. And I think that's the difference between someone who is an entrepreneur and someone who wants to be. And I don't say that in a way that's harsh. I think that people can learn that. You can learn through failure. But I think a lot of people want to get their ideas perfected before they start doing something. And the truth is, you have to do something. You have to do something about your vision. You have to do something about these things that you want to accomplish, and then you learn from there. So my advice would be, if you have something on your heart to build a community, if you have something on your heart or an idea for a business, just do it. Do your research and your preemptive things, but don't wait for perfection to come when it's definitely not going to come.
That's some solid advice.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Well, Alan, continue embracing community, serving others, and creating culture, because you guys do such a good job of that.
We'll 100% do that. So thank you so much, man.
All right. Let's go. Cool. Let's go grab an iced vanilla latte.
Let's go grab an IVL.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right. Well, that's it. We want to say thank you again so much for checking out the Kentucky Entrepreneurial Hall of Fame podcast. Special thanks to Lee Rosevier for the music that you hear in the show, and to Lexington's Awesome Inc. for hosting us from their space. Again, I'm Garrett Farbach. Make sure to check back and tune in next time. We'll see you then.